So the topic of my video for this class is the language of the internet. I discussed it before earlier on in our semester when I was talking about the culture that is online and the fact that it's mostly English, but the fact that it's slowly developing into a language of its own with its own slang and its own translations that it would need to have between even English and the language of the internet. I've made reference to Twitter and the fact that many people use hashtags to communicate now to tag other relevant things instead of just using the word itself. So a brief history of the internet. It was designed in the late 80s, but the infrastructure itself for the actual World Wide Web was put in about 1990 to 1991. And the international, literally through the ocean cables to Europe were put in about 1991. And then the public commercial World Wide Web could start being purchased at about 1995. And for a while, that's just what it was. It was used for email and for mostly business, but rich enough people could buy it for their homes and download music and the like. And then around 2003, forums started to pick up, and the first forum that was really around at that time was 4chan, which was created because it was a place for people who enjoyed anime and Japanese culture to discuss things online, but in recent years has really picked up as almost a social media site that is entirely anonymous. Facebook then was picked up in 2004, which was one of the first popularized, second to MySpace, social media site that to this day has exploded in popularity. The next popular forum after 4chan was most likely Reddit, which many people use this day to get their news stories as well as create their own art and even create beautiful works of video and discussion ranging from politics to stupid jokes. YouTube also came out in 2005, which was one of the more popular video streaming websites because it was free to use and had on-demand video playing, because before, websites you would have to download the video to be able to view it, and to save on people's bandwidth, you didn't actually have to download anymore, you could just watch the videos live. And then, a year later, Twitter was formed, which was the first, quick, short-form social media where people could share each other's posts and things could become popular, and now in recent years has been used for political things, like we see the President Donald Trump use, as well as news stories from actual news sources as well as fake news sources. What is the internet? Physically, it is a series of cables that are interconnected throughout the U.S. and then internationally as well at certain points across the ocean. This is then used to create this interconnected World Wide Web of computers. A computer has an individual address in the said interconnected world, and it is able to connect to any other computer in existence if given the right port and connection, and anyone can go to certain websites like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Culturally, it didn't really pick up until it was more easily accessible for many families to use. At first, it was just a series of chat rooms and online game servers that were able to play with each other. But in recent years, it has really picked up with people creating their own references in the form of memes, their own videos in the form on YouTube, their own language in the fact that there are many things that people that have used the internet for a long time can say that much older folks would not even be able to understand. The word meme has really entered the nomenclature, but things like gaming terms, like noob or loot box, would be something that would not be able to be understood by those that did not use the internet regularly. And then coding-wise, it runs on a series of different programs and languages such as HTML to display the web page, PHP to run the web page and more secure things like login and stuff like that, as well as HTTPS, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And Hypertext Transfer Protocol is, of course, how the websites communicate with each other online. Because you have the file, you have the way to run the file, and then you have to wait for the website to understand the file. And those three work in tandem to create the entire internet that you see daily. And of course, the language of the internet was designed in English. And even those who have to code in HTML and PHP mostly have to use English to do it. So if they do not have English as their native language, they have to learn it to code, which is challenging enough. But that doesn't mean that there isn't changes, because there are many forums on Reddit that speak strictly in their native tongue, and there are users from English-speaking nations like America that can log into that area and communicate as well, and it creates this almost amalgamation of languages that throughout time has shaped the language of the internet. I spoke of 4chan. This is what it looks like on the home page. You can see that there are different sections. There's Japanese culture, interests, creative, other, and of course the adult ones. These are entirely anonymous forums. So, in a post, you have a particular call sign, but that call sign changes between posts, so the only way you can know who you're talking to is if they give enough personal information that you can figure out who they are. But most of the time people like being anonymous so they can discuss anonymous topics that if we knew who you were, like on Facebook or even Reddit, you would not really feel safe stating your opinion. So of course it does breed a lot of controversial stories. Reddit, as I mentioned several times, is the forum site where people can post their own personal content, and you can make an account which is semi-anonymous, but all of your history can be seen by those that look at your account, so you can still become infamous or even hated by several users. And of course YouTube, which has a comment section, which many people make fun of as the users online as being this place where language goes to die. But it's more of a place where people can speak their mind in even less of an anonymous way, because you can go to people's channel and watch their videos if they make them. But as you can see in this image here, a lot of the times the comments are just making jokes of funny words like derp. And of course, Twitter. Twitter is a place where people can tweet in a completely non-anonymous way. For example, actors like Ryan Reynolds can post funny images in reference to things in the past. Or Donald Trump can post things he actively cares about at 3 a.m. So where do I predict the internet's going? I see it as a melting pot, so to speak, like it was said about America, with the fact that thousands of cultures are being put together in one place and can interact with each other and mold each other's worldview and language and culture to a point where it'll be a culture of its own eventually, if it's not already. We speak about this week with cultures within cultures, but there's the fact that it almost creates a world culture that we have not really seen before, because it's still, even 2 decades ago, there was this still separation of that's my country, but there's this international place of the internet that almost can create its own culture worldwide. English is currently still the dominant language of the internet, but I think in even several years' time, it can become its own separate-ish language created by the slang and language that is created by the internet. Hope you found this informative, and thank you for watching.